Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Chuck Moon and Scott Manley, and today
it's true.
Rob McClellan is visiting us, and we're gonna hang out and talk about websites today. It's always it's like a pebble in my shoe. My website. It's like one of those things where you're like, I need a website, and then you're like, I don't want to mess with the website. And so we're going to talk to Rob about that because Rob just recently helped us redesign Keystroke's website, and he's managing it for us, a lot of aspects of the website, and the service is phenomenal. Modfarmdesign.com is the email or the website URL for his company, and we're going to talk about that today and talk about what the benefits are of having Mod Farm, and then just talking about general concepts and designs for your website, what makes it more appealing or better than, like a 1990s bulletin board.
Right. I ran across one of those recently. It was hilarious. I was like, kind of nostalgic though.
You're dialing up on 56K like
you got mail.
I remember 28. I remember when 28.8 was fast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like blazing.
I remember. So we had 28.8, and 56.6 came out, and I remember begging my dad, "Please, Dad, can we get the 56.6? It's so slow on the 28."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And should also talk a lot about how it's the first time and last time probably I have more book cover pictures on my wall than on Josh's wall because he's in some sort of weird cubicle in the Netherlands.
I know. I mean, it's the Matrix, right? Where you're in that loading thing where everything's white.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you want? And I'm like, guns. Guns. and then the racks of guns just shoot by. Yeah.
There you go.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Pretty neat.
Welcome everybody in the live chat. Let's see. Corey Gilliam was the first person here. He gets the Keystroke Medium Golf App appreciation. Thank you, Corey, for being here this Monday morning. Scott McGlasson, one of your whittle piddlies is a boob. I don't know what that means.
I was talking about typing. I have a Band-Aid on one finger, on my ring finger, and so it's like you're trying to type, and it seems like it should be a small thing, but like typos are like off the charts lately. So
it's crazy how much having a Band-Aid on your finger affects the tactile function of your finger.
It's ridiculous.
It's like you have a little like a hangnail that you put a Band-Aid on in your index finger, and then it feels like you don't have a finger. Like
it's like getting your car spiked in a police car chase. You get off and you're missing a tire.
Exactly.
It's only happened once.
Unity 15 Sci-Fi Booktube. Hello, good morning, Bard of today. Welcome. Big Ben is here. Evening caught a live one. Welcome.
Fantastic.
Always fun when Big Ben is in the.
It's just because you like to say it.
I just like to say the name.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Way to go.
It's absolutely true. If you're listening on the audio podcast and you didn't know, we do live broadcasts every Monday morning-ish, unless we have to do Tuesday or a different day. Live on YouTube at youtube.com/keystroke medium, and you can come hang out in the live chat and be a part of the shenanigans.
Then you can make comments that, cause all kinds of shenanigans and grief, and, we can all tease and mock each other.
That is true.
It's really the best way.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to convince what's his name in the Monty Python that there's a witch and had to drown her in water, like little small float.
He looks like one. And you can also make fun of Chuck's flowery bookcase there in the
There's nothing wrong with my floral bookcase.
100%. That reminds me of going to my grandma's house, like back when I was a kid. And
that's what he was going for, pretty sure.
Flowery wallpaper and the wood floors that creak.
The doilies.
Yeah.
The carnation rose wallpaper.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And they've got all the little like porcelain little things. Yep, phone call. Get it.
I don't know anybody in Towanda. How do I check this out?
I like how everybody looks at their phone. They're like, is that me? Is that
right?
Me?
We're all conditioned.
Yeah. Like, oh wow, somebody from South Dakota is calling me. Good.
Professionals
put all not answering.
Vibrator silent.
I just wanted to make sure it's on silent mode.
My technological abilities. That's probably because I thought it was on Vibrate. But
it was funny when I first went from Android to iPhone. I think I got like the iPhone 4 or something like that way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it I can't remember what day it was, but I had to go to class that night in whatever it was, a college. I can't remember what class it was, but I didn't know how to put it on silent, and I kept getting text messages and phone calls, and I'm like trying to put it on silent, and I had no idea until the person next to me was like, "Hey, there's a little switch right there," and I'm like,
switch.
Yeah. Well, so in my defense, and then I know that we can move on to more productive topics, but in my defense, my phone is on vibrate. But since somebody, not going to mention any names, but initials are Josh Hayes, convinced me to go all Apple products and stuff, I have my phone, which is an Apple, and then I have a laptop here, and it was the laptop that was going off. So I need to learn how to mute the laptop. Can you put my laptop on vibrate? Yeah. Let's see.
I don't know. That'd be a pretty funky laptop.
It's on vibrate now.
Yeah. Your laptop's on vibrate. The whole desk is like.
I didn't know Flashlight made laptops.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, we're not even 10 minutes into the show. I can't.
Yeah, it's gone off the rails.
You're
It
welcome.
didn't take long.
Yeah.
Hey, James.
Right.
Let's see. Jake Lifton Slater's in the chat. Rob rocks Writer's website.
He does. He just did.
Rock.
I just did his.
Okay, if you could say that 3 times really fast, I'll give you.
Rob Rock's writers' websites. I can't say that. I can say it once.
Nah.
But yeah, so we should share his links and stuff, because he just did his. He does mine. He does Keystrokes, and we'll get into that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So are we gonna go around the table? What we're doing this?
You go ahead. You go ahead. You go first.
Oh,
Josh seems lost since all of his toys and everything are gone.
I'm completely.
He seems just distraught and distracted.
I spend most of my week worrying about Josh's office, to be completely honest.
Most of the week, I just sit in the corner on the floor back there and just cry because
all the presents.
Yeah, it's for sure. So this week, I did a bunch of writing. My first Invasion Day audiobook is scheduled now to come out January 12th through Podium. I just got that notification, so I'm excited about that. It's not up on Audible yet. I looked this morning, but it should be soon. So that's really cool. I'm working on my a new collaboration with Jeff Chaney called Orphan Wars, which I think is fantastic, and I really love it. And working, I've applied for a teaching position at another institution around here, and I got an interview on that here in a couple of weeks. So
good luck.
We'll see.
Good deal,
See
man.
how that goes. I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll see. You don't have to take the job if they offer it to you, but who knows? I've been doing the one I'm doing now for a long time.
Isn't it interesting? Like the job is. I mean, you teach. You don't really teach, but you have taught and done training on the department, and it's funny going from where something that you're experienced in, and then going to teach it. Like you're 100% confident in the material you're trying to teach,
right?
Not 100% confident in the manner or the way in which you teach it. Like Like,
will I even show up on time because it's in a different location? And do I have to do a PowerPoint? Do I get to plug it in? I mean, how does that work?
I will
remember to put on your hands
with an app.
You will have to do it all.
Yeah.
You will have to do it all.
Yeah.
Google Doc that thing. Get some
Yeah.
Google Slides on. It's like the universal.
Yeah. Well, and there's a good chance that it could be some remote stuff, the way things are going, but hopefully that's not for much longer.
Where are you going to teach? Or where are you applying?
It depends. So it's at the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. So basically what I've learned from my sources there is that when a new person comes on, they have a big conference and everybody goes, okay, what courses do you want to unload? And then we'll see if the new guy can
See if they can handle it.
So it's really anybody's guess, but I imagine there'll be
services like that too.
Yeah, so there's going to be some like classroom stuff, like case law, interview techniques and stuff. But then there'll be things like range time and emergency vehicle operation. That'll be fun. Defensive tactics. Those would be good, but probably a lot of classroom stuff in the beginning, I imagine, in DV scenarios, things like that, where you go role play and then they try out certain real world scenarios and then you grade the cadets on and stuff. So
it's always interesting when you teach DV scenarios. So I used to be on the training team for the department, and we would go up to KLATC. We had a really good swap for swap thing where WPD would just send a whole bunch of instructors for the couple of days that they would do DV training. And the responses or the reactions that you would get during those scenarios from some of the recruits was sometimes it was absolutely mind blowing what they would do. Like you're just like they react and they do this and you're like,
that's not what you're going to actually do.
What?
Teach
Like,
them.
no.
Yeah.
Or like we had one guy, it was a suicide scenario, and the deputy reached out and grabbed the firearm that the subject was holding. And as part of the scenario, if that stuff happens, then you just start shooting at the officers, right? And so I start going bang, 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 bang. And but we ended the scenario almost immediately. And I said, well, now your hand's all screwed up because you were holding the slide and the rack. He's like, no. You wouldn't have got a shot off because I hold the rack back. I held it.
He doesn't understand ballistics.
Wow.
I was like, absolutely not. Doesn't work.
You've watched way too many action movies.
Yeah. It's like gently reaching out and doing the whole thing where you pull the top of the rack
just
slide off.
Oh, you're disarmed.
Dude, come on, man. It's lethal weapon. I saw him do it.
That's right.
Did it.
a very long
Come on.
time ago with the revolver, there was that theory that if you grab the cylinder and you can hold it, and if you could get the web of your hand between the hammer so it couldn't fall, then you could defeat that.
Right.
But then you're gambling with your life. Can I grip this, keep the cylinder from rotating with more force than they can pull the trigger? You know, I'm not sure I want to take that bet anytime soon. But but that's kind of what's been going on in my life. Who else wants to?
Chuck, go ahead next, brother.
Well, let's see. Been working on my Jack Dark and kind of getting my ducks in a row. I'm going to really buckle down and try to finish all these books I'm behind on this year. So I've been kind of organizing. I've been redoing my office in my daughter's room. That's why I have this pretty purple bookcase behind me. And last week, everybody was home again, and not because of COVID. They actually got a week out of school because someone hit the entire school district with a ransomware attack that got into the computers. All the kids' computers, all the teachers and the school's computers. I mean, it just ran rampant. So they spent a week trying to clean all that crap out of their system. And today is their first day back for that. But yeah, the wife's just been keeping me busy with all this. She went out and bought a kind of an armoire desk thing for my daughter. My daughter's room is upstairs, and Amy just went out and bought this thing and just said, "Oh, we got to go pick it up." And I go and get it, and it's huge. It's huge. It probably weighs 300 pounds. And we have like 4 tight turns you have to take on our stairs to get to my daughter's room. So she bought this piece of furniture that I can't even put up there because there's just no way in hell I'm going to do it without digging trenches in the walls. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. And that's pretty much it.
Wait, well, what is it about?
Josh would knock the walls off. Josh would knock down the walls, rebuild it, reroute all the wiring and all that.
Yeah, I can do that. I just don't want to.
It's interesting about furniture. Like, they make furniture and have no concept of door size. Like we get couches, and I'm on the strict basis of I am not bringing it in the house. That I'm paying for delivery, however it is, because navigating a doorway is the most horrible thing that you could possibly do. Oh well, and upstairs, especially switchback stairs.
Yeah. But yeah, just the usual stuff. Just writing my books and dealing with the crew.
Nice. Rob, what about you, man? What have you been up to?
We are navigating the children returning to full-time school, like on campus madness. So we've been, we're in California, so we've been remote since March, and our school's saying, hey, it's our time. We're going to start bringing kids back in January. And so we're kind of like, okay. So it's been 50 million Zoom calls. It's been, oh, here's this presentation. Oh, here's this thing. Here's this form you have to fill out. Here's this health screen you need to do. So, pre-holiday fun right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course all of this we got it because my son's bringing home a big packet of stuff today that we're supposed to deal with, and you get to do all of this 2 weeks before Christmas break starts.
Oh yeah,
it's like Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Then we'll do it again after all that.
That's
Barely an inconvenience.
so that and a lot of website stuff. We're prepping this thing with the ISFA with Craig. He's starting to kind of ramp that up a little bit. I think I shot you a little preview.
Yeah, I was looking at that. It looks really good.
So we're getting that to ramp up. I think he's going to go this week. We'll start signups for that. So that's kind of cool.
Very nice.
That'd be cool. Good stuff.
Little prep.
Different than because I know they have they have a website now with signups. Are all the signups going to transfer to the new one, or are you going to have to do it?
No. It's what he wants to do, or what we are going to do, is we wanted to kind of make the ISFA a lot more relevant. And I think he had an original view, and no one kind of followed that, but we gave it kind of its time. And he's been distracted too. He's very busy.
Oh yeah.
And so we met up in Vegas last month and kind of had a big okay, what do we want to do and what are options and what are things to do? And one of the big ones was readers like books and authors like to promote books. And we thought, well, how can we do that effectively and have it have meaning and stuff like that? So we were kind of going through that. And he wanted to do everyone has their free stuff, like their Kindle Unlimited, if you're Kindle exclusive, you get those free days.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, why don't we give people a chance to arrange those and we'll kind of push them all together as a single force, and sign to say, hey, these 100 authors are going to do a free book in the military sci-fi genre. You can get it right from Kindle. Here they are with direct links and little bits about the books and kind of all this stuff. So we did testing of that, and now we're kind of ready to start going that direction. So the idea is try to start things kind of more in bulk instead of single people just sending out their emails or trying to rely on Amazon to just work its magic. We said, well, why don't we give everything a boost? And we're kind of coming up with some other ideas along those same lines. So this week was coding and prepping and form building and stuff for that.
Coming up with kind of effective, I say marketing campaigns, but ease of use,
that's a biggie.
And collective. I think we've been a part of a couple of the newsletter type business deals and group wide emails with a bunch of stuff like Sci-Fi Bridge and Discover Sci-Fi and stuff like that. And I think those are a little bit more effective than just your normal. I don't do a newsletter. I haven't done a newsletter in forever. I probably should. But the groups like Sci-Fi Bridge, everybody subscribes to Sci-Fi Bridge or Discover Sci-Fi because of the amount of good deals that you get off it. It's like a book pub, right? You follow.
Yeah, it's like has an economy of scale. It's just, it makes everything more efficient and more powerful if you kind of all work together.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. If you're trying to especially if you're newer to the indie thing, you start doing your own marketing and newsletter. It's amazing how fast that just eats your life. And you're like, I didn't get any words this week. That's because I wrote a newsletter and then I had to try and design my website, which would be neat if I had somebody do that for me, and so on and so forth. I'm just a little segue in where we're going.
A little segue.
That was a nice segue. Hey, Rob, what makes a good writer's website?
Indeed.
The ability to find what readers are looking for. And that's multi-level stuff. And I think there's a top level, which is sort of, I went to the website and I saw something. And then there's that other level of search found me, I'm listed in Google. When you search for the author's name, your website's at the top of that search page. The interconnectivity with your social media, the ability that if something's shared on social media, how it looks, how it's presented. So everything about the website at the top level, the number one job of the website is to inform and direct the visitor. That's the whole purpose. So if it can't do that, and there's a surprising number of author websites that simply cannot do that, then in my opinion, it's kind of a fail. Because you're spending money on something, you put effort into something, and it doesn't give you anything back.
Right.
So that's, for me, that's number one. It has to be able to inform the reader, the visitor, of what you want them to know. You know, this is my latest release. This is my hot series that's on sale. This is the audiobook that just came out. You know, things like that. And then it has to be able to direct them where to go. You know, hey, if you go to this page, you can get a sample. You can buy it. Here's where it's offered. These are the formats that it's offered in. Oh, this is the cover art. This is who wrote it. This is the part of the series that it's in. So if someone stumbles on book 3, they have a real easy way to find books 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You know, so all that I think is really kind of essential, you know, at that top level. And then you get into other things. You know, maybe you sell signed copies. Maybe you have a newsletter and you want people to join it, and you want to inform them that if they do join it, they can get this nice little benefit, you know. And so there's things with that. And then you can get into like even farther down, which is sort of specialty applications, which we do a lot of at Mod Farm, which is, you know, an email newsletter integrated right into the site. So everything's sort of smoother and you don't have to pay as much for the other third-party services. You know, you go past that free tier of MailChimp and things start ramping, you know, fast. And we provide a service that doesn't matter. You can get as many subscribers as you want. It doesn't matter. Book delivery, which is the thing we started getting into this past month because we've had a lot of difficulty with it. So that people can sign up for your newsletter, for example, and instead of going to BookFunnel, which is nothing wrong with BookFunnel, but it's another thing to manage and it's another monthly expense, and you know, it's another thing to try to integrate and do. We can run it all through the website and provide kind of that same deliverability that BookFunnel does, you know, or at least at a very similar tier. We don't do it obviously exactly the same as they do, but you know, so in my thing, that the thing that really makes the website is that top level. If it's not informing the reader and directing them towards what you want them to do, either sign up for a newsletter or buy your book or both, that's really like the top level thing. Like it needs to do that. And then you have those other layers underneath that, depending on what you do for your marketing or what you do for your books or what you do for your other goals, you know, it can help you with, you know, but oh no, go ahead, go.
Honestly, so some of the reasons, Alan Campbell was when he first mentioned your service to me, I looked at it. And so some of the reasons because I did a do-it-yourself website for several years, and that was fine. But I spent a lot of time on it, and what I would do is I would adjust everything, whatever my newest fancy was. But then I didn't want to have broken links, so I would basically just hide all of the old versions of the website, and then just have the newer ones. And I don't have any idea what that does to like SEO, but I imagine that to Google, my website behind the scenes looked like a chaotic mess. My branding was kind of inconsistent, and you know, it was just too much of a temptation when I was having a hard time writing to go start playing with my website for 2 weeks and not get any work done. So one of the things I was looking for was how to make my website cleaner as far as how Google sees it, and more secure and just more navigable like that. And you helped me quite a bit with all of those things. So what
do you mean by how Google sees it?
Well, because like when I see the website, I just see the sites that I had visible and not private. And I don't know, this may not be a thing at all, but all of the so a little bit about me, like I was cleaning up my spreadsheet for 2021, and in 2020 I was going to have a clean spreadsheet to track my progress, and I looked at it and I have like 79 spreadsheets I made this year to track my thing. And so my website was the same way. I probably had 100 versions of my website that I'm assuming the internet can still see because they're hidden from viewers.
They can still see.
But so the Google, you know, nanobots or whatever look at it, they look at all of my web trees or organizational things, and it's a fucking nightmare, I'm sure. because there was hundreds and hundreds of versions of my website behind the scenes, and I'm assuming that's not good for your deliverability. Is that true, or is it? Or am I
it can be. I mean, it's sometimes I think if your website's kind of a hot mess and you didn't do much with Google's SEO or you didn't pay attention to any of that, it's almost like you're already at the bottom. You're not going to get more bottomly. You know, it's sort of getting like real top level. Like maybe if someone looks specifically for Scott Moon, this title, you know, whatever, then maybe it'll come up. Probably like 10th down in search because it's going to hit Amazon first and kind of other things. And maybe other people that are better at this than you, like maybe a book reviewer or something like that. So you'll start seeing all that first and you're somewhere down at the bottom of the page or even on the second page. I've gotten a couple authors that have come to me and I could not find them. Like I had to go like 10 pages deep into Google to find their website. And that's a place you never want to be. So
when I started with, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think it will feed into what you're saying is, so when I started self-published in 2013, one of the biggest things that everybody was trying to do is get a good search engine optimization on your website. It was very important. And so I tried to do that through watching, you know, YouTube videos, reading blogs, and obviously I'm not a programmer, so I'm sure I'm in a hot mess of it. So what are some things people can do to improve that?
I think it depends on the website service that you're using. So if you're like, we build exclusively in WordPress. We do WordPress websites, you know, but if you run Wix or Squarespace or something, I know they have SEO tools. I think some of their premium tiers, you can start getting into their SEO tools. And the way it works for us is I have a system built into the websites, into every page. And you can do it as a website as a whole, which we do. We kind of have sort of like a top level thing. But then for every book, for all that stuff, we'll have a custom image for sharing on social. We'll have a custom bit for search. So search and social are different. So like search, you get 300 characters and you kind of want to load it in there with some keywords and talk about your book and stuff like that. So like, for example, your book, you might say, new military science fiction thriller by best-selling author Scott Moon, does this, awesomeness, great read, you know, like something like that. But for the social little pitch of it, you don't have 300 characters. You have maybe 6 or 7 words. If you look at how Facebook shares something, you kind of get the title, little picture, and then you get one little sentence. It's just a couple words. So you really got to condense that down to that little bit. Otherwise, when it shares on Facebook, it'll just look like blah, you know, and it won't have the sales pitch that you want. So we kind of have a little sheet that helps us track that. And we kind of go through and do that for a lot of sites. And some of them I don't. Usually when I go through and update any page, I do like an SEO review. I kind of look at it and go, okay, did we have a good picture there? Did we kind of make this right? How's this look? And so we kind of hit it on the, if we don't get it on the front end, because sometimes things get chaotic when you build and launch the site, you know, we get it kind of as we start doing updates to pages. We're like, oh, let's double check that. Oh, well, let's clean that one up. That one could be better. And we kind of hit it, you know, cycling through.
You could probably do an entire episode on SEO.
You know, it's important, but it's not the most important.
Okay.
You know, I think SEO is definitely good, and it helps for your website to get up on social. But you know, the website is part of like a combination of stuff. You know, you have your newsletter, you have the booksellers themselves, Amazon or all of them if you're wide, and you have your website, and then you need them to work all together. Like you want them to, they go together. And SEO is important for a website because you want to be found if people are looking for you. And it's better to get them on your home turf because all of your stuff is on your site and you can kind of control that narrative. When people search through Amazon and they hit you and they say, oh, there's your Amazon page, and they might click on that from search, but they're getting what Amazon gives them. And that's a chaotic kind of bunch of stuff. Like it might not be what you want them to see.
Right. Well, it's like when I look at like when I'm looking for a book on Amazon, they're never in any kind of order. And I'm never quite sure how is that is the books that I'm seeing first, are those the ones that are selling more? Is it alphabetical order? Is it when they're launched? Because I have the same, like you said earlier, if I find book 3, sometimes it's hard to find book 1. If it's like a 10-book series, you got to click around and go through like 9 pages until you eventually find the first book in the series.
Because depending on where you land, and depending on how the author set things up, and I see this a lot with trade pub authors, indie authors seem to be a lot more savvy about it. Just because they're hard knuckle,
They got to be.
But trade pub authors, a lot of their stuff, the publisher doesn't link the series in. It just throws the book up there.
Yeah.
And so, like a lot of you go underneath there, and it's like book 1 of whatever of this series, and you can click and see, or underneath the kind of the description, you have all the books in the series. A lot of trade pub authors don't have that.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of those authors don't even have websites sometimes. Like you go and you try to find like especially like just for a simple thing like contact information. Like that, sometimes that is the hardest thing to find. And if you don't have a website, it's so much harder to find. And I know a lot of people are, if you're like Patrick Rothfuss or R.A. Salvatore or Brandon Sanderson or Take a Shot, somebody like that, maybe you want to keep your contact information hidden.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of indie authors, that contact information is important. Just for purposes like this, where you're trying to reach out and get them on the show. Like sometimes it's a kind of a real challenge to do that.
Yeah, I get contacted through my contact info on my website about once a week, really, if I average it out.
I have a lot of our authors, we set up contact pages for them, and a bunch of them get quite a bit of mail.
Yeah. Do you, when you're doing one of these for somebody, do you advise having a blog? I mean, is there any point to having one of those on your website anymore?
I like blogs, and I started, this is sad for me to say, but I started putting some articles together on how to blog effectively for authors, like how they should really do it based on what we see. And I have been overwhelmingly busy and had not been able to finish that series of articles, but it's powerful and it's useful if done right. If not, I don't know if I'd make a big thing out of it, And when I say done right, I don't mean like you have to blog every day in this huge, massive amount. Some people do, and that works for them. But to be honest, it's more about effectiveness. Like
Scott McGlasson in the live chat, he says he thinks blogs are good if you are entertaining. So, like you're saying, if it's effective and people want it.
Entertaining is one thing, but really it's engaging. And if you're engaging because you're entertaining, then that's great. But a number of the authors that we see, like I had this cool graphic that we started looking at all the page views over the last year of all the sites that we manage. And newsletters are about 2% of page views total, but blogs were 14%. So people went there, and when we started digging down saying, okay, well, people are really that interested in an author's blog, we found that most of the things that brought people to blog posts were search, and they were looking for something interesting. We had an author that is a historical fiction author that writes a lot about, he's a big reenactor, and he does, he's a master sword fighter. He talks about weaponry. He's done things about camping at the level, and surviving at the level of that time period, the armor, the gear. Heck, he's done little things on like how to stitch the clothes.
Yeah, I'm Googling that right now.
Man, that stuff gets found. Yeah. And it brings them to him. And, you have little plugs on the website, and sometimes they go farther than that, but it definitely puts them on the radar. And so a lot of things get found that way. Michael Bunker is one of the sites we manage, and he wrote a bunch of articles years ago on living off grid, like how to thresh wheat, how to roll tobacco, how to make coffee, how to do these different things that were just primitive level tech. He gets 100 to 200 hits a week on those articles, and they're 5-6 years old now. They're still hit just constantly.
I wish I was that interesting.
It's not an overwhelming stream. It's just, it's just a constant passive background thing. So sometimes, but then we used to see a lot of authors would write blogs on craft. Dude, don't even waste your time.
Yeah, I think that's tough.
Nobody
'Cause you're
cares about
drawing-
your character development or your craft or how you.
Right.
No one cares.
And you're
But they'll care
drawing
a lot of,
you're drawing writers to your page, and what you really want is readers who are going to enjoy. I mean, you want to be a community of writers, but if you're trying to sell books, you need people who are more readers than writers.
Because I mean, like my website is basically just a contact form to get in touch with me, a little bio thing, some links to my books, and kind of explanations of books, and then like I don't know, 3 or 4 short stories that you can just click on and read on the site, and that's it. And I didn't know if blogs were a good way to get people to come and check it out, or if newsletters were better, or what. I just is there anything beyond the obvious things that people hear about all the time that are drawing eyes to websites these days? I mean, is it really just strictly content driven, make it interesting and people will come?
No, I to be honest, I have a number of people put out a lot of content, and maybe people see, maybe don't, because the way people share content, like this podcast, for example. This podcast is here. People are not watching it on your website. It's very hard to do a podcast live to your website. I've tried a few times. It requires a lot of structure. It's not an easy thing to do because it's not designed that way. But so this will go out, and it'll go out in audio, and it'll go out on YouTube, and people will see it in different ways. But the way they're going to see it is not your website. But it's on your website because I make sure it goes there. It syncs to your YouTube, and by the next day it's on there. But that's not what you share. That's not what you go live. However, there are ways to manipulate that later, like say with an email newsletter. Okay, you could have an email newsletter that goes out like every Friday that says, hey, this is what happened on Keystroke Medium. And it has your posts and it has things, and it tries to bring them back to your site. Because your site's got more power to it than a podcast does. You can't mark anything directly on a podcast. You can say, hey, go here. But there isn't like a button. There isn't informative information. It's just if someone hears you say it.
Right.
And so I've seen people, like business people that do podcasts, and they tend to do it that way. They have the live thing that goes out and people can audit, but they always follow up with that newsletter that says, hey, bring it back here.
Yeah.
So you've got kind of that content. But the other is with authors, the thing that comes most is people come to your book pages. They want to see what you're doing, and they want to find information about your books that they can't find otherwise. Either it's easier to figure it out on your website, or it's not on Amazon, or for some other reason. So we found that a tremendous amount of traffic to websites, again, 14% come to your blog, but 80% hit book pages. That is the overwhelming driver. It is just the absolute, that's what people are coming to see. And so we recommend, and that we do with every website, is that every book has its own page, every series has its own page, because that's what people are clicking through to see. That's what they're driving to do. And I've seen people come, and it's not unusual. I've seen it very commonly. People will come in to one of our book pages, and they'll look at that page, and then they'll click the full series page, and then they might hit a genre page, and then they start clicking around. And it's not unusual for someone to come to one of our websites and instead of go, click, see a page and click out, go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages as they kind of drift through your site. And if it's kind of made for that, they'll do it.
Do you recommend on the book pages having samples from the novel?
Absolutely. It gets clicked a lot. So our book pages, we put a buy button. We have a read a sample. We have a Goodreads link, like see the reviews, and we have a full series, see the full series buttons. And there's the big buttons right underneath the cover art. And we have audio samples if they have an audio book, and we have links on where to buy them, because sometimes it's only on Audible, but sometimes it's Audible, but also iTunes, and sometimes it's everywhere. So we make sure people know where to go and get them. And we track all of our clicks. So we see what people buy, and we see where they go.
There's several people in the live chat are asking for your link to where to get to see your stuff, Rob. So I'll have Josh put that in there.
Bard's being pretty insistent. Link.
Yeah.
There was a couple earlier too.
So modfarmdesign.com is us.
That's so hard to remember.
Yeah, so that's us. modfarmdesign.com. There we go. And it's straight up. We build author websites. There you go. And you can look in our portfolio and see stuff. We have stuff there, and it's not everything, but it's indicative. But anyway, so we track those links, and we found that about 50% of link clicks off of book pages are for a purchase. About 25% are for read a sample or see the full series, and then kind of 5-ish% or so is to look for reviews. And we've been experimenting with that review button. We used to just say add to Goodreads, but now we say see reviews. And see reviews has gotten a lot more response. It used to be 0%.
Right.
But if you put that up there, people click. And if you have the options presented of, it's available at Audible or iTunes or Google Play or whatever for your Audible audiobook, for example, you'll see people start clicking more than just Audible. We've had a big increase in iTunes. It's just, if people can see what their options are, then they do it. But if you also, part of that is the directing. If you just sort of leave it out there, people will do whatever they do. If you sort of focus them, they tend to take a lot more direct action.
I think we could definitely get deeper into that kind of nuance of what we're talking about. I do know we need to do a show sponsor, and I guess we already put the link in the live chat for modfarmdesign.com.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions we need to get to too that came out of the live chat, and then one that I thought of while we were talking. Today's sponsor, though, is Dead Acre by
my God,
Rhett, Bruno, and Jaime Steve Castle Boyer. And hold on, I'm trying to get the
Old West Urban Fantasy.
Oh yeah,
I'm listening to it now. It's pretty fantastic.
If I can get the thing here. Okay. How do I?
Very technical.
I should have done this while I was thinking about it, but of course I didn't.
We'll turn the vibration feature off on your laptop.
It's Dead Acre. There we go. Okay, so Dead Acre by Rhett, Bruno, and Jaime Castle, read by none other than Roger Clark, who was the voice of the character in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
I started listening to it this morning. It's fantastic. It's
badass.
It's up there with Make Me No Grave as far as narration awesomeness, if you want to call it that. But here's the description. The Witcher meets the Dresden Files in this weird Western tale by the Audible #1 best-selling duo Rhett, Bruno, and Jaime Castle, performed by Roger Clark. James Crowley met his mortal end in a hail of gunfire. Now he finds himself in purgatory, serving the White Throne to avoid falling to hell. Not quite undead, though not alive either. The best he can hope for is to work off his servitude and fade away. His not-so-sacred duty as a hand of God, use his new abilities to hunt down demonic beings that have infiltrated the mortal realm. This time, the White Throne has sent him to the middle of nowhere, a western town called Dead Acre, with a saloon, a moldy church, and little else worth talking about. There isn't even a sheriff. But the local cobbler has gone missing at the same time as a number of graves were desecrated. Crowley must follow the clues, all while dealing with a cutthroat gang that treats Dead Acre like they own it, an extraordinary woman who makes it hard to focus, and locals not keen on strangers. Life isn't simple for a hand of God of doom.
Oh, dude.
That
Dun,
is
dun, dun.
yeah, that is Dead Acre by R.C. Bruno and Jaime Castle. The link copy is in the description right now. Go and listen. It's interesting. This is, I think, one of the first books that we've used as a sponsor on the show that is not, well, it's not, you don't have to pay for it. All you have to do is be a member of Audio Plus, or Audible Plus rather, and you can listen to it for free as a short
Premium Plus, yes.
and you can go and listen to it right now without paying a dime if you're an audio member. So click that link, go give it a listen. I just started this morning and I thought it was a fantastic beginning, especially the narration. I love that type of
yeah, it's definitely worth the listen for sure. And it's free if you already have membership. So.
I want to take a minute to say hi to the latecomers in the chat. Dustin Camp, hello.
Yo, Dustin.
Howdy.
Nagling, welcome. They have one of the questions we're going to get to in just a second. Charlie Dunn is watching while he's on the road, the long haul trucking. Hello, John Evans, welcome. Whoa, Guy Anthony DeMarco's in the chat.
I know, I saw that. I freaked out.
That's awesome. Hi, Guy.
Seen Guy for a while.
That's right. Oh, yeah, and he says the most important thing, don't forget to like the video. That's right. And subscribe.
Yes. Like and subscribe. Share it.
We need to get a little animated thing, the YouTube videos that has a little mouse coming on and click the notification bell.
That's right.
Okay, so let's get to a couple of questions that we had. One in the chat and then one that I thought of. We'll do the one in the chat first because they're the most important people.
Damn skippy.
Nagling asks, well, we've already mentioned the first question. Where do you find his services? It's mod design or modfarmdesign.com. I put it in the live chat. It'll be in the show notes also. And what if we already have a domain name and hosting? How does that
question?
Okay, so one, you should always have your own domain name. If anybody doesn't have their own full domain name, then go somewhere and get one right now. Like that's an absolute thing. When I talk to clients that have like something, wix.myname.com or wordpress.myname.com or whatever it is, you don't own that. The domain name is literally the only thing in the internet that you own. Everything else you're renting. So I definitely recommend you have that. That way, if you have your own domain name, you can move it to anywhere you want to go. You want to switch. You want to move hosts. Otherwise, you're stuck. So I definitely recommend that. So you should always have your own domain name no matter what. For hosting, it depends on your hosting. I don't host with other hosts. I provide my own hosting and we manage everything ourselves. Part of that is because security updates, PHP, different hardness, different responsiveness, the way it interacts with our CDN, kind of all that stuff. So we don't do it with others. So when people come and work with us, we bring everything to us.
And that you did that for me, and that's something I was really nervous about, and you walked me through it.
Yeah. It's not hard. Like we have a pretty streamlined system. Like it's not hard to do. But we do that because that way we can make sure of everything. One of the first things we do when we take on a website is we kind of search them out. We see their SEO. We see their security. Usually security is the worst.
Yeah.
Just about every website we come on, when we go to securityheaders.com and search them, they get a big fat F.
That's another reason I decided to pay a pro.
So we do all that first, and that way when we bring you into our system, we make sure that you do not have an F. You get at least a B+, like at a minimum. And we can manage your SEO. We can see your responsiveness, your server responsiveness. A lot of people have cheap hosting, which there's nothing wrong with that, but after 2 seconds, people start to really question about your website. And so we like to keep it under, 1 second, second and a half for a page load. And we can do that with our hosting, relying on someone else's, depending on what hosting level you have, that may or may not be possible.
What's interesting about domain names is, and like you said, get one as soon as possible, because once you start, like for instance, if you don't get a domain name and then you blow up, right, and you become a New York Times bestselling author, somebody out there in a URL like company is going to buy your name as a domain name and then try to sell. Like I went to try to get joshhayes.com and they wanted $3,000 for it. And it's not because of me, it's because the stupid motocross rider,
what a loser,
name is me, that comes up first in Google. And I was like, no. Yeah, I know.
I've been trying to buy mine for like 10 years, but I can't. I don't even know what they're doing with it. But yeah.
So the other question that I thought of, and this we've slightly covered it already, is on websites that aren't done by you. What's the most thing that authors get wrong about their websites, in your opinion?
Number one, and I see this all the time, is that the cover art on their website links to the picture. It doesn't link to anything else. So they might have like a slider thing, or even just, hey, look, here's all my books. So they'll have an index of their books, and it's just a picture. So you click on the cover art and you just get a bigger version of the cover art. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It opens up a light box right now. Or it does that. So that's like, I see that a lot. Like that is extremely common.
And the fix for that is just in your setup, put in a link to wherever it is, and instead of
So it goes to
on what you have. So I like for personally, I recommend that people link inside their site. So if you have a book page that you've created for your book on your site, then the links in your site should go to that page. A lot of people link directly to Amazon, and I think that obviously drives clicks to Amazon, but it also drives a lot of abandonment to Amazon because they weren't ready to go there yet. Usually when people are clicking around on your site, they're looking for more information, not a direct to purchase. So, and it seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's sort of like the email newsletter thing that Neil came up with years ago. Like if you click right to the sign up, people don't like it. But if you're like, click here and then click, everything goes higher. It's sort of the same thing with books. You want to go and find more about it, and then you click with confidence and you buy.
So that's interesting because like in my website, I've got a list of my books, and most of my books link for affiliate links to Amazon, right? Yeah. But what you're saying is if you've got a cover, like if you've got an array of books and you click on that book, send them first to your book info description on your site. And then in that info description on your site, have the link to Amazon to go buy your book.
Right. Have samples, have links, have a description, have kind of cherry-picked reviews. Make them confident about it. Get them in there and be like, yeah, I want to do this. Because you've got two kinds of people that buy books. Let's say two kinds of people that buy your books.
Right.
All right. You got people that know you and are waiting for the next book and don't need to be convinced. And you have people that don't know you, don't know anything about your books, and need to be convinced. And Amazon is really great at the first group. I mean, Amazon, let's face it, if you go to Amazon, it is very easy to buy something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's harder to find out about what you're buying.
Yeah.
You have to keep clicking. I have to read more for the description. I have to read more of this. I have to scroll down, 3 sections a page to get to some even semblance of reviews. And all in there, Amazon is pushing other people's books at you.
Yep.
So you say that if you have that direct to Amazon link, that creates an atmosphere of abandonment because they've left your site and they're into Amazon stuff now. With that in mind, do you recommend cross-linking to other authors? That's something that came up in the chat.
I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's great to say, I like I guess it depends on how you cross-link. It's a great thing to have a thing saying, these are people I like and I recommend. And that's a great place for your blog. Hey, I read this book from this other guy and I really liked it. Hey, I read this new series from these people and I thought it was amazing. You know, and that's a great place for that. It's sort of that dialogue between people. But in terms of sort of a commerce-y, you know, I want people to buy my books thing, on a book page, you want to link to your own things. You don't want to go to someone else's things.
Yeah. There used to be years ago.
Blog, it's a great choice for that. Like, it's a perfect venue for that type of thing.
There used to be the idea of backlinks. So like I link to Josh's page, he links to my page, and then Google will see it as a stronger web page because I have more linking. And so I don't know if that was the purpose of the question, but I know that was something people pushed for a lot in the early days of indie publishing. I had one other thing I want to observe about what you're saying about linking to your own page and giving people information that they're searching for information. The Smarter Artist guys a while back, they stopped going straight to Amazon because they felt that if people decided to buy on your webpage and then went to Amazon and bought, then it showed less of an abandonment rate to Amazon. And that's all very theoretical because everybody tries to guess what Amazon is thinking. But they said they had a hard time because they were their show is nonfiction. And so they get like 3,000 people, 3,000 writers watching their show. All of those writers would go to their fiction book, click on it on Amazon, and then not buy it. Yeah. And they believe that hurt their reputation, as it were, with the bots on Amazon. Everybody was going to it, but not clicking through.
And it might have. I mean, Amazon's algorithm and how it works is, I mean, it's like any of the giant algorithms. It's more than most people know. You know, we guess.
It's a cosmic mystery.
Kind of like this. I mean, there's probably like 10 people that know, like they made the algorithm. They know, you know, but everyone else is sort of, well, I kind of saw this behavior. I kind of saw this. I don't know what abandonment does. I doubt if it's positive.
Would you say it's a good idea to have external links open up in a different tab or window so that your site stays open? That's what Guy and Corey are saying there.
That is standard operating for us.
Is it? Okay.
We always open up because what we found is that sometimes people go and look, but then they're like, oh, I might want to look at this other thing too. And they want to go back. And if you sever that connection to you, then they have a harder time going back.
Good to know.
So I don't think, like it used to be in the old days that opening up a new tab seemed to be this thing like, oh, how could you open up a new tab on me? You know, that's like, people just stopped caring about that within like a few months. People are like, whatever. I have infinite tabs. It doesn't do anything to me.
Right.
Scott's the type of guy that has like 27 tabs open.
I do. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 open right now on this computer. That's actually my Mac. The one I'm running the show on is my PC, and it only has 4. So that's 10.
So a question that I just thought of, which may apply to a lot of people viewing or listening, is if you already have a website and you are thinking about doing something different, or you're thinking, you know, I have like me, I have a website. The last time I updated it was like 17 and a half months ago. Like I'm not there. So say I want to transfer or come to Mod Farms and say, hey, I want you guys to manage my website for me. Yeah. What's that translation? What's the transfer like? And can you bring, a lot of people are worried about losing content and all, like rebuilding everything. How does that work with coming to Mod Farm?
Well, one, we're going to look at your website and see what it is that you've got and how it's made. And what we try to do is keep as much content as possible. And depending on who is making your website and how it's made and what you're doing, kind of dictates how we go about doing that. Now, our goal is to bring over everything. If you're like on Wix, for example, and you have 1,000 blog posts on Wix and you want that brought over, that's hard because Wix doesn't export very well. I can probably bring over like 50 to 100 of them. Just because Wix won't let it go. Yeah. So that's tougher. With WordPress, it's easier. You can just bring them all over because WordPress is allows for that. So it sort of depends a little bit, but most of the times we're rebuilding book pages, and we build almost every book page from scratch. Very few people make book pages the way that we do.
I'm going to show an example.
So there isn't that much
talking
to bring over.
Yeah, let's see an example, Josh, and then Rob can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. So
I was going to sheepishly ask you to use mine, but
yeah. Oh, wait, that one. Dragon Badge. Click on that one. That's a good one.
Okay.
Because he's got an audio and it's wide too, so it's kind of all in there. All right, so this is how we make them. So you'll see we've got the description, we've got the picture, we got the title, you've got those buttons over the side. The buy button's red. You can see on the audio, there's where you can buy it. There's an audio sample there. We have, if you scroll down that far, we have other books you might like that are Scott's books, and that's a rotating kind of randomized thing of his books. And if you scroll down a little more, you can see where it's available, even more. Now that buy the book section connects to that red button. So if you click on the red button, it will take you there.
Oh, gotcha.
And so we started doing that for wide books a while back because we used to use services like Books to Read. But Books to Read we were having a lot of abandonment issues with Books to Read. And it's nothing against that service. It's a great service. It's just that a lot of times people would go there and it would just take a long time to load. And so it was like, and so we started using page anchors and just having it be like immediate. And I made some custom systems that let us program those buttons out like super fast. But also it allows us to keep page tracking too. So I track every time someone clicks on those buttons. I know if someone's going to iTunes or Audible for 13 Mercs,
Oh, right on.
or for Dragon Badge or for anywhere else. Like I know where they're going.
Josh, can you go up to the top?
Yep.
Go to it's very small here. My books, and then scroll down to one of the series pages. Well, if you go to the top, there's a drop down menu.
Drop down.
Yeah, and then you go there, and then it goes over, and then pick one of those, and that will show you a series page.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it's neat. I like the little banners that it puts on there, like first in series or a new book or things like that. Are helpful.
So we have, pre-order or, available now. And a lot of times we'll have, when the series is complete, we'll put a first in series banner on it. So if people just see it somewhere in the list, then they kind of can see that's where you start.
I like the simpleness of the setup. It's very clean. It's very direct. Like you don't have to really, like for instance, see the series here on the first page. You can click the button.
Yeah.
Do you want to show Jay Clifton Slater's page? Because Rob just did his.
What's Jay Clifton Slater's address?
jcliftonslater.com.
See, because he got his domain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And it shows that he picked a style a little, because you have some choices there. It doesn't have to look exactly like.
Yeah, we design to the author and to the content, and we take some pride in it. It's easy to kind of just keep cranking through the same thing, design wise, but we try to mix it up.
Again, it's very clean site. It's easy to figure out what you're looking for.
Yeah, and so for him, there was a difference with different genres. We had kind of some. He didn't want a white background. He liked a little color. He wanted that gray.
I like it a lot.
And we just kind of started playing with, trying to keep the design going. And we every site that we make is different. We don't just cookie cutter it, but a lot of authors want the same things, and some of the same things work for each author. So after a while, it starts to get a little tricky to make sure everyone still has a unique presence, but we're still kind of doing, homepages or homepages. We kind of have the same sort of structure about what people are looking for.
And then how do these display on like mobile devices?
I was just going to ask that question.
Great. We're mobile first. You can shrink that thing down if you want and show it like in mobile view. If you can compress that.
Like drag the side of the.
No, I won't do that way. But like, if you squish the whole browser window, it'll reshape.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, like over in the corner, if you kind of not minimize, but you know what I mean. Like,
let me. I gotta redo the window application window.
Yeah, because you're.
Yeah. Yeah, keep squishing.
That's about as far as it'll squish.
Well,
on my end.
That's probably.
That's because you're just. Yeah.
You know.
Well, I asked it as a loaded question because I look at it on my phone. It looks very good. So.
Yeah, no, all of our sites, 50% or more, about, I think on our average, about 55% of visitors to the websites that we manage are on a mobile device of some kind. So we make sure that everything is mobile responsive and looks good on every device that we can control. You know, so that's a big part of the design. And some things rearrange. It's not just that it squishes, but sometimes whole content rearranges to make sure that you know it's a different interface, so it kind of looks better in a certain way.
And what's also a benefit to using a service like yours is if you're not, you know, indies do a lot. You know, a lot of indies publish their own books, they format their own books, they do a lot of stuff themselves, and all of that takes time. And this service, which is there's a setup fee which varies depending on what you want to do, but the monthly cost is like what, $50 a month for all of the upkeep and all of that stuff, which is it takes a lot of legwork off of the author and puts it on you, and then allows them to do the things that they need to do.
And like when I started out, that's something like that wouldn't have been in my budget, but it quickly became the point where, and then once I did that, and you know, for me, that's like taking my kids to McDonald's one time a month, you know, because I have a gaggle of kids. But it's
like what you pay like for Weebly, like you pay whatever it is, $20 a month, $30 a month.
Yeah.
And even if it's cheaper, you're still looking at the time investment and learning the thing and upkeep and all that. And so how do you value your time?
There's books that have not gotten finished for me personally because I fell down into I'm going to redesign my website today, right? And you know, for whatever reason.
Well, that's why I don't. That's why I update mine like every 6 or 8 months, is because it's cheap on Wix, but it's you know, it takes time to like get around to doing all this stuff. And now I've got a whole other list of things that I'm going to go and change on it because of Rob here and his.
I'm not a big fan of Wix for like author websites. I think if you only had a couple books, Wix would be great. When you start getting into multiple series and you're running promotions and you're doing things, for me, I didn't like it because it's too labor intensive after a while. Like all of Scott's stuff is interconnected. Like when a book page is in, it's in, and now it's this discrete piece of information that I can just manipulate all over the place with like that. If I want to throw this up on the homepage, great. If I want to change sidebar, great. It's very quick to do. And so it's responsive in that respect, not just in design, but in that. I found that with static generators like Wix and Weebly and Squarespace, they're fast. Like the HTML that they use is super streamlined, so the pages load quickly, but they're not interconnected. And so if you had a static, like a small business or something where the content doesn't really change, they're great. But if you're wanting to move things, you know, rapidly, Wix makes you work for it over time.
You
know, you can't reuse your stuff. You have to rebuild every time. And so I found that I don't like that as much. It's easy to make something pretty, but it's hard to make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and
that's partly why we stuck with WordPress a lot, because we could really leverage the content management system of WordPress to just really kind of drive certain things. But in terms of like website management, ModFarm's kind of a unique thing. Like when you, and Scott's experienced this, and Josh, you're starting to, but it's kind of a different thing. Like when you go for a managed WordPress somewhere, they'll make sure that your hosting is good and that maybe your plugins are up to date, but then that's it. We are not like that. Because the biggest thing for authors is not making sure your plugin is up to date, though that's important and you should do that. It's did you put your book on?
yeah,
Right.
what I do is I email Rob and then I don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah. So like a typical thing for Scott and for most of our authors is to say, my book with this title is coming out next month. Okay. And that's the end of his involvement.
Yeah.
And then I find it on Amazon and I search it up and I get the art and we kind of put it all together and we build the book page and we say, okay, here's your book page. Here's a link to it. How's it look? And Scott's like, oh man, that's great. And then we
that's exactly every time.
I have had other clients that go, well, I really wish that the banner was this color instead of that color. And I want this. And can you change this? And can you add this? And I said, okay, sure.
And I want little bunny rabbit / unicorn page somewhere.
So sometimes you do that, but also we have, like I said earlier, a newsletter service. And so we just did this on Friday. It's certainly not unusual for me to get an email from one of our clients that has their email inside of the email saying, send this out today. So I take the text and we put it into the email system and we format it, and they wanted to promote these books. So I get the cover art that's built into their site and I drag it over and I kind of do it, and then it goes out. And they don't think about it. They haven't slowed down. And so we do a lot of that level of management. Like that's kind of the bread and butter of ModFarm.
There's a couple of questions in this chat that we're going to get to here really quick. We're a little bit over on time, but I think these are interesting questions.
People are digging it. So
Guy Anthony DeMarco asked, what WordPress plugins do you use across all of your author websites, since we were talking about plugins?
We have a book management system that we use. So that is a plugin, and that's distributed across all sites. We have a number of kind of management suite plugins. So one covers SEO, it's called Smart Crawl. One covers some branding aspects that we use, email management, things like that. We have plugins that do security. We have a system called Defender that we use. We have the premium version of that. We have the premium, pretty much every plugin that's on the site. If there's a premium version, that's the version that we provide.
And all of that with the monthly fee and all that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So Gravity Forms is our standard form plugin. We use that a lot for all kinds of things. WooCommerce is sort of WordPress's default e-commerce platform, so that's provided.
And that's what we use on our Keystroke Coffee section, which is fantastic. I love the interface.
Yeah. So we have a number of things like that. We have a lot of plugins that are they're technical for me more than the authors probably would know what they are or would even use them, but they assist us in accelerating, page delivery, connecting with optimizing image sizes, stuff like that helps the sites run smoother and faster. So we have a lot of stuff. There's about 60 active plugins.
That you can kind of, it's like kind of, you can pick and choose which ones you need and which ones are valuable for your particular site.
We kind of manage that for everybody. Authors don't really have much of an ability to get at that level behind the hub. Authors have full connection to all their content and full connection to anything that they would use. But if it has to do with site management, then usually that's kind of off limits.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You don't want them.
People need to be in there.
Yeah. Bart of today asked, do you do free consultations or assessments on your service?
Sure.
Where would they reach out to get that?
There's a contact page on modfarmdesign.com. Just send me a note. I'll take a look.
Let's see, modfarmdesign.com, and then we'll put that contact right in the live chat. We'll have the link in the description as well. Yeah. Speaking of the link in the description, I wanted to mention Ken Britz is doing our show notes for the shows now, and holy crap, he is doing a phenomenal job with the show notes. And I just noticed this morning as I went back and looked over some of our past videos, because he does timestamps in the show notes. You can actually click directly on the video where it actually breaks the timeline up into the sections. So if you go, it's not for this video yet, but if you go and look at the interview we had with Yudahan Jaya Vijay Ratna last week, you can see on the actual timeline the segment breaks between when we're talking about different things, and even like where the sponsorship is, and then where the rest of the content is. And that's really fantastic. I want to give a whole bunch of props to Ken for
Ken rocks.
That's amazing. Okay, so we talked about where they can go, modfarmdesign.com, to get an assessment or to see what you do. They run Keystroke's website. They run Scott's website. I think they run Lauren's website. And like we just mentioned, Jay Clifton Slater's do a phenomenal job. So if that's something that you're in the market for, definitely check them out.
Craig Martell's, we run ISFA. We run a lot. We're happy. We like it. Business is good.
Business is good. Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us today. Always awesome shenanigans in the live chat. If you're listening on the audio stream and you're missing the live chat, man, you're really missing out. Especially if you want to get your questions answered on that, because you can't do that on the audio version. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/keystroke medium, and click the little bell. Ding. And I think we're on iTunes, we're on Podbean, we're on Stitcher. If that's where you want to listen, come and listen. Hopefully in a couple weeks I'll have my new office set up so I won't be in the Matrix loading room. And we're going to take a couple weeks off here in the next couple weeks. I think next week we'll have a show, and then we'll take some weeks off for the holidays. And we don't have anything scheduled next week, so it's probably just going to be a Hangout Roundtable AMA/stream like we do sometimes. Rob, thanks so much for coming on the show today, man. It was
my pleasure.
Thanks a lot, man. Good info.
Very informative. Good stuff.
All right. Well, we're going to take off. Again, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. And we'll be back next week talking about reading, talking about writing, and of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.
Later, folks.